Kakao Corporation is taking the reins of K-pop pioneer SM Entertainment this month as Hybe withdrew its bid for control. So what were the events that led up to this takeover? What has been the response from fans here and elsewhere? And what are the tasks that lie ahead as K-pop seeks broader, sustainable growth? Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today we address the latest developments in the K-pop industry following news of Kakao's takeover of SM Entertainment as Hybe withdraws its bid. For more, I have Kwon Soa here in the studio. Soa, it's good to see you again.
Happy to be here, Sunny.
I also have Tamar Herman live on the line. Tamar, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be back.
Right, so let's begin then with a wrap-up of the takeover of SM Entertainment by Kakao following Hybe's withdrawal of its bid.
Sure, let's take you back a couple of weeks where there was a fierce battle between Hybe, the entertainment agency behind world-famous boy group BTS, and Kakao Entertainment, the subsidiary IT firm Kakao Corporation, well known for the messaging app that almost everyone here in Korea uses on their smartphones. Over the acquisition of SM Entertainment, one of Korea's early K-pop powerhouses. So this battle lasted for more than a month, but a little less than 2 weeks ago it ended. Hybe gave up on its takeover bid for SM following talks with Kakao. The company explained it was a decision made after comprehensive considerations on potential negative impacts on Hybe's shareholder value. So in a statement, Hybe said, quote, "We determined that the market was showing signs of overheating due to the competition with Kakao and Kakao Entertainment. Hybe and Kakao agreed on a practical partnership, which turned out to be a plan to collaborate on a platform business. Kakao welcomed Hybe's decision, saying it respects Hybe's determination to end its bid and expressed hopes of a wide range of partnerships for the future of K-pop and K-culture as a whole." Now, when all goes as Kakao had originally scheduled, it will continue to offer a purchase of 35% stake in SM through March 26th, injecting 1.25 trillion won, or roughly $978 million, raising its stake from 4.91% to be exact, to 39.91%. Kakao vowed for a smooth conclusion of the acquisition, saying, quote, "We feel deeply responsible for having caused many people who cherish and love K-culture concern in the process of obtaining shares."
Right, and against that backdrop, Tamar, what can you tell us about the response from global fans regarding this latest development here on the local front?
Fan response has been pretty sedate. People feel, from what I've read and what I've seen and heard, people feel like this is probably the best answer. People were very concerned about what SM would look like under Hybe. Of course, fan wars and fan tension got involved, so it wasn't necessarily, how the business side of things would look as much as feelings about, competition between artists. But Hybe has taken over other companies, and some groups have fallen by the wayside during mergers, or post-mergers. So people were concerned about SM's roster. SM's executives had their own plan. They had announced it before Hybe got involved. So there was already this whole SM 3.0 direction announced. So people kind of feel, from my perspective where I'm sitting, that the Kakao deal is going forward with SM's vision as it is right now. Of course, there was a lot of turmoil to get there. So we don't really know what Kakao is going to do in the long run, and really what this new SM 3.0 plan is, how it's going to play out. So, but I think for now, fans are a little bit alleviated. A lot of people are kind of, the conversation hasn't stopped, but people are kind of waiting to see what's happening now.
Right. And so what has Kakao shared about some of its immediate plans for SM Entertainment?
Well, what Kakao and SM both are looking forward to is to swiftly promoting the so-called SM 3.0 strategy that Tamar also just mentioned. The future strategy Kakao predicted SM's management will be centered on, promising a global entertainment company with the fans and shareholders at the center. It's expected to combine SM's global IP and production system with Kakao's IT technology. So so a few more details that were hinted so far are it's all about maximizing the synergy effect between Kakao and SM, for instance, through the utilization of webtoons and web novel platforms and Kakao characters. Also, a concert by SM artists at Kakao's Seoul Arena is in plans, and also they are looking forward to expanding business abroad after a shareholders meeting on March 28th, at which an organizational reshuffle is expected that will focus on future growth engines. There have been talks about new projects in North America, including music webtoons and web novel business. Kakao Entertainment last year had launched Tapas Entertainment in a bid to accelerate its content business in North America. An official from the IT industry told a local media outlet that Kakao will look for methods to grow its business based on its global platform for characters and commerce to go beyond content development and distribution based on SM Entertainment's intellectual property.
Right, and speaking about plans, so what can you tell us, very briefly that is, about the K-pop school that SM Entertainment recently opened?
Do I have to make it briefly, or can I go a little more deeper?
You can go a little bit more deeper. I'm actually quite interested in this. It's opened last week.
Same here, exactly. And it's called SM Universe. In short, it would be SMU. Does it remind you of something, Sunny?
SMU.
It kind of sounds like the prestigious university in Korea,
right.
Seoul National University, which in short is SNU, right? So I found it quite interesting, but it's not university, it's universe, SM Universe. So it's basically a K-pop school that teaches how to sing, dance, act, and much more. So for teenagers that dream of a career as an entertainer. So it is located in the heart of Seoul in Gangnam District, and 120 students can enroll per semester. But given the interest in K-pop, that's probably not enough. So that's why an audition is needed to get into the school. Now, age is important too. So this year, only those born between 2006 and 2009 and have a middle school diploma can enroll. So unfortunately, I'm not in that age bracket, although I do have a middle school diploma.
Neither am I, but okay.
But another reason for why I might not enroll is the tuition fees, because it's 8.8 million won, roughly $6,700 to 10 million won. That's some $7,600 per term. So what can they major in? It's vocal, dance, acting, and also modeling, as well as dance. Did I mention dance? And it's also acting. So it's not only about becoming a K-pop star, but also you can become an influencer, a model, and also they are looking for dancers to, have genre-less dancing classes and so forth, also become actors and international producers as well. And this is going to be a 3-year course. And the vision of the SM Universe is beyond your dream. On its website, it says SM Universe is an educational institution that weighs the competencies and possibilities of students who dream of becoming global artists and provides personalized learning experiences. It also emphasizes that the program supports students receiving public arts education without them having to give up on their studies while still pursuing their goals as artists.
I see. And Tamar, this is an impromptu question. What are your thoughts about such efforts by SM Entertainment to start their own school, or that they have started their own schools since last week, that is?
Yes, so we have seen these kind of K-pop hagwons before. I think this is a little bit more intense than that. It sounds almost like I'm in New York, so like Juilliard comes to mind, some sort of program for actual, students looking for artistic development. The fact that there's an audition process is similar also. I think that it is fascinating, and we'll have to see how it turns out. I mean, it was just announced, and so I'm curious if it opened already, what is happening, how are our students already there. So I'll be eager to see how the first and second semester looks.
Right. Meanwhile, Tamar, what look to be the broader implications of Hybe's #1 ranking and Kakao's #2 ranking on the K-pop industry as a whole, do you think?
I think it's a little bit hard to say one is 1 and 1 is 2, because Kakao is obviously backed by Kakao. So even though it's Kakao Entertainment and it's #2 on the entertainment side of things that we see right now, and Hybe is clearly a global beast on that front, Kakao is such a prominent tech company, and Kakao has quite heavily invested in SM. They've quite heavily invested in their entertainment arm. So I think that based on their own background, it's hard to say, who is really going to come ahead. Obviously, Hybe has a different expertise than Kakao, but Kakao has a lot more technological aspects, which is why Hybe is so intense about getting a platform deal through the SM deal that they ended up deciding on. So I think there's not really any one coming out on top right now. I think that we'll have to see how Kakao goes, because Kakao has historically had other K-pop groups like companies like Starship Entertainment, where Monsta X and Ivar, IU is under Starship brand, A-Pink, a lot of different artists are under Kakao, So Kakao has had this entertainment intention before in the past, and they're still growing it. But right now we're seeing them kind of really invest in it heavily. So I think it'll take some time to see what happens.
Right. So according to insiders, meanwhile, what look to be the prospects of this latest setup in the K-pop industry?
It's all about more ways to monetizing contents, because the gist is we've got SM content and Kakao's platform. So as Kakao's technology, distribution platforms, and customer channels collaborate with SM's music business area and K-pop stars, that'll give room to much more opportunities to diversify all kinds of elements in the K-pop business. There's also going to be more connection with fans expected by industry watchers, and more investments in new technology partnerships, expanding into AI and the metaverse as well. Now, an analyst here in South Korea has mentioned that Kakao has strengths in K content, which include media content, webtoons, as well as web novels. And if Kakao acquires SM Entertainment, it will make up for its lack of entertainment content. And another analyst stated that Kakao has a lot of artists, but it is undervalued compared to Hybe and other entertainment companies because it doesn't have many superstar IPs. And with that said, the acquisition of SM appears to be a merger that works very much in the favor of Kakao. And also, we must not forget that actually Hybe is not completely out of the picture, because remember that I mentioned earlier that Kakao promised for cooperation regarding platform business with Hybe. And that's why the entertainment industry is keeping a close eye on a global fandom platform called Weverse that Hybe has been working on to turn it into a new growth engine. So mega collaborations here could also bring another boost to the K-pop industry. That's not according to analysts, that is my personal opinion.
Right, well, personal hopes right there. Tamar, Hybe founder Bang Seok recently claimed that K-pop is on a decline, citing numbers that actually did indicate a drop. What are your thoughts on this?
We've seen drops in interest in K-pop before, as everyone knows. Probably, I hope. It's the Hallyu, it's Korean waves, so waves tend to ebb and flow. So we've seen instances of popularity waning before. We're also coming off of a period of weirdness where people were at home in many countries, not leaving their houses necessarily as much as they are now. So just from my side of things as a journalist, we're seeing drops of engagement and numbers of readership, not necessarily meaning that people are no longer being fans. They're just not as engaged because life has picked up in many countries, or in most countries around the world. And so we have seen for a while that K-pop, it is, as it's getting more development, there are routes that it needs to take to continue the growth. And in recent years, we've seen some concerns from industry insiders that things are not going in the right direction. We've seen a lot of focus on certain markets. Some markets have been closed off, whether because of politics or because of the pandemic. We're still not necessarily sure how much of this is pandemic lag or how much focus on some markets over others is hurting things versus helping things. And also artistically, we've seen some big leaps and bounds, especially from girl groups in recent years, but boy bands aren't necessarily gaining the traction that they used to in recent years. Other artists are stepping in. In Korea, of course, Trot became a big player during the pandemic. And so there's all these different elements that have come into play in recent years to impact the K-pop industry. So I think the industry is adjusting, but some of this adjustments are going to take some time, and we'll have to see whether the adjustment can get over the steps that they've now encountered.
Right, and this next question then, Tamar, is going to be a little tough. So it's in a correction phase, if I may. And if that is the case, Tamar, what perhaps would you suggest to allow the industry itself to better weather or navigate this particular territory?
Well, it's a
very hard
one.
question, yes.
Yeah. I think that some of what we've seen in recent years has become almost over-reliance, I think, on the fan dynamic, where people are very reliant that, yes, the fans will listen to the songs, yes, they will buy the albums, but that doesn't necessarily create new fans. It doesn't necessarily create new creative steps. We haven't necessarily seen, K-pop used to be known as a very experimental genre of music, and there is still that. And there is still occasionally like experimentalism and someone coming out with something really brand new. But we're seeing kind of the whole industry as a whole not necessarily having that identity anymore like it used to. So I think that the creative aspect of things has kind of taken the backdrop in recent years. Kind of, it's still, great quality content, but nowadays we're seeing a shift of things. Kind of, everything was really focused on just gaining audiences and gaining the fandom support, so that if you tour or you release an album, the sales will be there automatically. But at a certain point, you reach a cap of how much growth you're able to get doing what you're doing. So I think there has to be new venues and new platforms. And we're seeing kind of a return to an earlier generation of K-pop model, where now a lot more K-pop stars are going on variety shows in Korea, which is a new revenue stream for them, because that used to be a mainstay. You used to have K-pop stars who were immediately, since day one, they were poised for being on Korean TV and comedy shows and gaining a big name for themselves that way. They were posed to be actors. You weren't seeing that so much when fans' interaction became the norm through social media, and everyone could just have their own YouTube channels or TikToks. So we're seeing kind of a return to the integration of different forms of media, but it's still taking some time, and I'm not sure necessarily if it's going to play out, because of course if you're controlling the narrative yourself as the artist, it's much easier than integrating into other forms of media. But I think that there is a need for broader audiences of K-pop, whether it's terrestrial television audiences or film audiences, or getting your name out there to general public. We've seen K-pop acts regularly try to collaborate with other artists or localize to markets. It doesn't always work the right way. There you have to kind of try some new things, and I think that some companies are willing to risk that, and some people just are not. And that's really, I think now is the time for people who will take risks to succeed. Right, of course.
So speaking with a Spanish media outlet recently, BTS's RM, he shared his thoughts about the K label, I believe. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Right, the BTS leader was promoting his first solo album in Spain when he was interviewed by El País, which was very keen on how RM felt about the Korean label or the K entertainment system, which is often portrayed as an extremely competitive field with slim chances to reach success compared to many other music industries, and even referred to as the factory of young idols in some cases. When asked about the perfectionistic and overstraining traits of K-pop, whether this is something cultural to Korea, RM replied, quote, "People in the West just don't get it," explaining Korea is a country that had been invaded, devastated, and torn in two, and its dramatic transformation in the past 7 decades. The artist emphasized that working hard and pressuring oneself is how things get done, and which is what makes K-pop appealing. The biggest misconception or prejudice regarding K-pop, he said, was that it's prefabricated. While acknowledging that it can be annoying to be categorized in one chunk as K-pop, such as on Spotify, RM called K-pop an exclusive premium label that, quote, ensures the same high standards of quality that our grandparents fought for. On the question whether the system surrounding K-pop is dehumanizing, RM answered he partially admits it, but at the same time, it's also partly what makes the industry so special. He added that many conditions have improved when it comes to contracts, payments, as well as education. He also mentioned that there are teachers and psychologists supporting the idols.
Right, good to know. Also on a light note, so American singer Kelly Clarkson has been praised. She's been receiving quite a bit of praise for her effort to pronounce the name names of TWICE members properly. Could you tell us about that as well?
Right, especially the fandom of TWICE, also known as Once, greatly appreciated Kelly Clarkson's efforts that she showed during an interview with a popular K-pop girl group on her show, The Kelly Clarkson Show. The 9-member group made their U.S. talk show interview debut last week, or rather the first ever in-person interview. So here's what happened. The singer-turned-show host Kelly Clarkson communicated with the group through the help of an interpreter. And when she noticed that her own pronunciation and that of the interpreter was different when she pronounced the names of the members, she paused and showed sincere efforts in correcting herself. For instance, when she was pronouncing Nayeon like Nayeon, and what in particular went viral was the part when she was interacting with Zooey, a Taiwanese member of the group. So after saying Zooyu, she confirmed with the interpreter, who gave her the English romanization version and the Korean pronunciation. Then, looking perplexed, Kelly asked Zooey how she would like her to call her, and finally she gets as close as Zooey, the pronunciation. So I would have to say this was really a nice episode that shows how much respect for the K-pop idols and for the K-wave itself is, being shown on the international stage.
Right, it was very gracious, I have to say. Tamar, on a more somber note, Hybe head Bang Si-hyuk has spoken about the importance of steady and sustainable inroads into the US market with a solid network that minimizes the cost of perhaps trial and error that comes with navigating unfamiliar territory. Now, that being said, what are your thoughts, Tamar, regarding his ambitious plans for expansion of the K-pop industry as a whole?
Bang and Hybe have made huge inroads. They have acquired several big companies in the U.S., Scooter Braun's company, and then Quality Control recently. These are, I believe, their way to integrate more efficiently versus other attempts. K-pop has been trying to break into the U.S. market for decades now. It hasn't always gone well. There are collaboration attempts that are currently in the works that we've seen similar projects kind of get derailed because of either cultural differences or because of political issues coming into play. So a lot is at hand here. And because the US market is the biggest music market in the world and the biggest entertainment tastemaker in the world, there is still always going to be this need for K-pop to get into the market in order to monetize to the intensity that the industry would really like to see. So I think that Bang really does have these plans, and I think we're increasingly seeing a lot of artists and a lot of companies try to focus on the U.S. market, and to some degree, it's working for some artists. We're seeing, major tours. Stray Kids are currently in the middle of a stadium tour, and TWICE is coming later this year. There's nonstop tours. I've been going to a concert almost every other week, if not every week, in New York, of Korean artists who are coming to the U.S. to, show us what they have to offer. It's anyone from rookie groups to indie stars to big idols. TWICE will be playing at MetLife Stadium, which is here in the tri-state area, is the biggest stadium around. No girl group, to my knowledge, has ever performed there before. But I also think that like I mentioned before, we've seen missteps. Most infamously is Wonder Girls, when JYP tried to break them over back in the mid to early 2010s. And it just didn't work, and it didn't take off. And then we saw other attempts slowly over time, and we've seen, obviously, now there's a lot more integration. Of course, Kelly Clarkson interviewing TWICE, and just generally we've seen on award shows, BTS, Blackpink, everyone. There's now a lot of performances. We've seen festival integration, which I think is that's probably the thing that I think is going to be the big deciding factor here. Is you have to, at this point, not just get online to the audiences who are online and engaged with that certain genres of music and who already maybe are familiar with K-pop, but get to the music fans who are really out there spending money on concert tickets, getting to the festivals, getting to the audiences. That was one of the things that BTS did very early on, was go on a lot of tours to get in touch with local markets, and that was one way that they helped connect with fans. And so I think that that's something that's really important.
Some very valid points there, Tamar, actually. Right, well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Issues and Insiders. Tamar, thank you so much for your time. I know it's really early in the morning there. Thank you very much for being with us live. And Soa, back here in the studio, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
My pleasure.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Issues and Insiders. Do join us again same time tomorrow, that is Friday, during which our panel of foreign journalists address career-related matters. See you then. Thank you for now.